Hello and welcome to the Revolut Insider Podcast, where we explore Revolut's rocket ship from the inside out, one episode at a time. I'm your host, Alex Carrill, and joining me today is Stephanie Ewin. Hi, Steph.
Hey, Alex.
Can I call you Steph? That's okay?
Yeah, everyone does.
Oh, wonderful. And Steph, you are Senior Recruitment Manager, and your focus here is on hiring the right people for our services and sales departments.
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I hope I can answer any questions and be useful today.
I'm sure you will. I really wanted to get your insight into what it's like recruiting for our sales and service teams, and to get your insight on managing a team of recruiters, since that's what you do, and hopefully get some tips and advice for potential candidates who apply for these service and sales roles, and even make it through to our role play and live skills interview phase.
Amazing. Perfect.
So Steph, I'd like to know, how did you get into recruitment in the first place?
For most people who work in recruitment, you don't really choose it. It chooses you. So I actually have a degree in theater.
Wow.
So not super related or relevant, to be honest. So during my degree, pretty quickly realized that this is not really, what I want to do long term or after I leave university. So stuck it out, decided to make a good go of the education piece. And afterwards, I actually fell into recruitment. So I essentially wanted to work in a target-driven or incentivized role. And this kind of came up and I decided to go with it.
Wow, a background in theater, how cool.
Yeah, thanks. It is different for sure.
Yes, it is. But I also think that part of theater is communicating. I mean, that's a lot of it besides the acting part. But I mean, the communication is so relevant in your role because you are talking to people and it's about making a good impression. And I think a background in theater also helps you be more aware and perceptive of other people's character. And especially in a recruitment role, it's really important to be a good judge of character.
You've hit the nail on the head, basically. I think the communication part is absolutely key in our job. The energy, the dynamism, we are speaking to a lot of people every day, internally, externally. It takes a lot of energy, and being able to interpret and understand people and the way that they work and are, it's a huge part of the way that we work.
Yeah, not to mention the live aspect of when you're conducting these interviews and they're live. If you have one take, right?
Yeah, one go at it.
Well, I think pulling from your own experiences and skills is what sets you apart from others. I think it really gives you a different perspective on how you approach things.
Yeah, most people don't think recruitment is a creative topic, and it's probably not in the grand scheme of things, but I think, I can take a creative approach where possible, and I always lean towards a team-based approach or directional approach as well. So I think there's a lot of it that you may not assume is influenced by my background, but certainly feels that way a lot of the time.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes people like yourself end up doing or even applying for a job that's outside, let's say, their scope or experience or what they've studied. How can someone who's looking to start a new job or possibly change career paths stand out?
I don't think that this is applicable for all industries or all career paths, of course, but I think in my case and in similar cases, if you're achievement driven or if you have a strong record of achievement, even if you possess transferable skills, a career change or shift is absolutely possible in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I think that gives hope for people that may want to have that career change, but may be hesitant to do it.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we're really fortunate as well that at Revolut, especially if you've got a strong track record, internal moves are possible within reason, but that's something as well that is a possibility here. So we're really lucky for that.
Yeah, like the Spires program, which you can even train in a different department. Like if you're an office manager and want to become an engineer, we have that program available.
Yeah, totally. I think that's an amazing initiative as well. It seems like it's been really popular. And I think for, other people who may not have had that chance externally, it's an amazing opportunity.
And you're a recruiter for services and sales at Revolut. Can you explain all that covers?
Yeah, good question. So my remit is essentially customer facing and volume driven. So I oversee hiring of our global sales teams. So this can be for core business sales as well as product teams. There are about 11 team members working on this continuously. And then on the other side, I also oversee services functions. So that would include payments, complaints, support, financial crime services, among others. We're actually working on a pretty large scale growth project at the moment. So there are actually 42 team members working on services hiring. So pretty big, yeah.
And you oversee this big team.
We have amazing leads who oversee the teams as well, and they support me as well.
And you oversee this team of recruiters, and all of you together recruit for a big part of the company. Each one seems different too when I think about fin crime, customer support, sales. They are different, but there's a common thread here, which I'm getting is customer-focused roles.
Absolutely. I mean, they're all wildly different in a sense, but you're absolutely right. They're all customer-focused and they're all volume-driven. So they are the two largest functions in the business.
Wow. And what do you look for in candidates who are going to be the representatives, in a way, for Revolut, the ones who will be speaking directly to customers?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think especially for sales, it can be kind of hard to pin down experience and hard skills because so much is about the personality and the fit. But if I had to define it, I think that for any of our customer-facing roles, we want someone who's not just passionate about Revolut, but also passionate about the industry and the space that we operate in. I mean, we want people who are knowledgeable, who stay up to date with trends and activity and news. But we also want people who are high performers and have great track records of achievement. So candidates that are ready to get hands-on and to get out of that comfort zone, that's super important.
And some of the guests that I've had on the podcast before have mentioned how Revolut is built of a bunch of people with an entrepreneurial spirit, right? Like product owners are kind of the CEO of what they're building. And I imagine that can be similar in the sales field as well.
Yeah, totally. I think people who are entrepreneurial, people who are ambitious, there's a lot of common traits. And I think that that's something that's applicable probably to a lot of people in the business, not just in the area that I work with, but in the whole business, you'll see a lot of common themes like that within the personality profile that we look for.
Yeah. How do you manage hiring on such a big scale in a remote environment?
I mean, I love that we're remote, and I love that we can offer that to our employees, to our candidates, and that people have a little bit of everything so that they can choose what helps them to work best. I love that you get the flexibility, and it's twofold. It's a great selling point for potential recruits, and it makes the team happy as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I love it. I love being able to work from home. And every now and then when I get to record these episodes, it's a great chance to meet people in person.
Yeah, I completely agree.
But I don't miss it.
I love being at home, but I'm happy to be here too.
I love being able to go get a snack. And anyway, I digress. On that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with more Insider Views. This episode is brought to you by Revolut Ultra. Enter a world of exclusivity with the Ultra plan from Revolut. From world-class travel to supercharged savings, Ultra is your ultimate Revolut experience. Ultra is only available in the UK and the European Economic Area. Terms and subscription fees apply. And we're back here on the Revolut Insider Podcast with Recruitment Manager Stephanie Ewin.
Thanks, Alex.
How's it going so far?
Yeah, good. Thank you. I'm enjoying this.
I'm glad.
You're a good host.
Thank you. And this theater experience is really coming into play here.
Thanks.
Before the break, you were talking about what you look for in potential candidates. Let's say a person is selected from their application. What are the recruitment steps for a sales role?
Yeah. So I think first things first, conversation with recruitment. We want to identify if a candidate is right for us before we even set them up with a hiring manager. And if so, in sales in particular, they'll probably have maybe 3 to 4 calls with a hiring team. So they'll cover off several different areas, maybe a role play, some skills assessments. And usually at the end in all of our sales roles, they'll end up with a team fit. So they'll meet with either the relevant line manager or they'll meet with a head of sales in a lot of cases.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good for them to understand who they're reporting to, working with on a regular basis as well. And that process can probably take anywhere between 10 days to 3 weeks in some cases, but it can be done quicker as well.
I didn't realize that some potential candidates for sales meet with the head of sales department.
Yeah, so we have several different heads of sales for all of our European territories and hubs. And a lot of the time, those heads of sales will want to meet with the individuals. And I think that's particularly useful. So you're meeting with someone who's more senior, who's significant in shaping the culture and the performance in that team.
And I think you kind of touched on why that's important is getting this idea from a senior leader at the company.
Exactly. It's nice to get big picture information to understand how they work, to understand, what's made them successful to that degree as well. So there's a benefit in meeting with many different individuals and different seniorities in a process.
And what a vote of confidence after this person is hired to say, wow, I've made it through all of these steps, but all of these steps have a logic and a reasoning behind them.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right.
And let's talk about the role play life skills interview. What's the purpose of this particular step in the process?
So I think so much of a sales role is about life situations, interactions, and reactions. And sometimes the best way to assess that is, in fact, live or in a simulated environment. It's definitely candidates' time to shine, and it can be super impactful to the outcome of their process or their hiring decision.
Can you walk me through what a typical role play interview might be like?
At a high level, it might be anything like a discovery call with a potential business, or it might be a prospecting exercise, a goal to book a demo. That's just an example of what it could involve.
Yeah. Do you have a couple of questions on hand that maybe I can ask you? We can turn the tables and do like a mini mock interview?
Sure.
I mean, if this isn't a theater exercise, come on.
So sometimes we'll ask a candidate, how do I define performance and what drives me? Or maybe ask a 1-minute tailored pitch of Revolut business.
Okay, that's a good
one. So you
one.
can ask me, but I'll do my best.
Okay, no problem. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but it's okay. Okay, all right. I'm going to get into my interviewer mode. All right. All right. Steph, could you give me a 1-minute pitch of Revolut business?
And then I'd answer the question perfectly and get the job. No. So the candidate may want to, touch on why Revolut business is great, what the USPs are, how it operates within, financial markets, and, how it compares to competitors, just as an example.
Yeah.
I could say something along the lines of Revolut business is great. You can save on transfers, payments, currency exchange, the FX product offering is great, and, touch on several things like that.
And so more important about what they say, what do you look for in how they say things?
I think someone who really knows what they're saying and someone who's really understood the research and taken the time and effort to do that research, that is very clear and very transparent to an interviewer. If you're just kind of reading off the back of your hand, or if you've really taken the time to understand the product offering, that's really the difference between a good candidate and a really great candidate.
Yeah, definitely. And besides being prepared, which of course you should be prepared for any interview, do you have some other tips for candidates going into this interview?
I think try to be as specific as possible. Always be ready with metrics, data, performance history. I mean, sales in particular, it's so easy to quantify the outcomes and how you've performed, and it lends itself very well to that style of interviewing. So I think absolutely be ready with that, off the cuff for all of your previous roles, track records, performance history, revenue generated, whatever target you've had. It's super important to be able to rattle those off during an interview.
Yeah. And are there any do nots that should be avoided when going into these interviews?
I think a lot, but we're remote and everyone's doing interviews remotely at the moment anyway. So finding the right place, dressing appropriately.
Do not show up in your pajamas.
Yeah, it's not great. Making sure that you've got great sound, internet, all of those things from a logistical perspective. It seems really obvious, but you'd be surprised. I think do not turn up unprepared. Obviously, really go in understanding your motivations, why you want to be there, why you've taken time out of a busy day to interview for a company. I think motivation is super important. The interviewer's made an effort to turn up, so make sure you know why you're there.
I can imagine, and especially in these roles where you probably are interviewing a lot of candidates, is you want to make sure this time is respected, not only for the candidate, but for the recruiter as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
No. And I'm sure that also says a lot about the candidate. If they're late to an interview, how are they going to treat our customers?
For sure, yeah. Punctuality is so important.
And as a recruitment manager, you're the one that's building this team of recruiters to look for these sales and services positions. So what do you look for in these recruiters to be a part of the dream team that you're building?
Yeah, good question. I think apart from actual recruitment experience, for me, similar to the streams that we're hiring for, actually, energy and work ethic is, for me, the most important thing. I look for someone who's curious, someone who's passionate, and this goes a really long way. If someone wants to learn and they're happy to spend a lot of time and effort on their ramp-up period, then that initial investment of time and effort is really going to pay off in the long run.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that's the most important thing for me.
And you've been with Revolut going on 5 years now. Obviously, the company has changed since you started. Can you tell me some things that really stand out to you during your time here?
Yeah, I think that there's so many things, but nearly 5 years is a long time in a company like this where we change and we evolve so much. So there's certainly been a lot of major differences. I think one of the most tangible things is, we've built a lot. We've built a lot of processes from scratch. We have partnered with the business to achieve massive goals. So really, I think the building and scaling of our business streams is the most visible change or the proudest achievement even within that time. I think it sounds kind of vague, but when I joined, I think the company was maybe 2,000 employees, possibly less. But shortly after that, we started to scale services and sales. And now they're the largest functions in the business, over 1,000 people in sales, I think maybe more in services. So it's been really rewarding to see a very tangible impact in that sense.
I'm sure you feel really proud of being part of that upward journey.
Absolutely. It's amazing.
Wow. And for someone who might be in a similar position as you that was part of this kind of upward journey, this upward growth, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think you've just got to get it done yourself. Being a part and instrumental and, rolling up your sleeves, no task is too small. I think that's really important. It goes a long way.
And this can apply to anyone, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. And if someone wants to apply, how can they go about doing it?
You can apply online at revolut.com/careers, or you can browse our LinkedIn page for open positions.
And I'll make sure to include a link in our episode description as well.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I just have one final question for you today, Steph. What advice would you give to yourself when you were just starting out in your career?
Oh, good question. Okay. I think try everything once. Yeah. Say yes to as much as you can, every opportunity that's kind of presented to you. Try to expose yourself to as much as possible. And if you don't ask, you don't get. That's the best one.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Steph, for sharing your insight into recruitment with me. And hopefully we gave some insight for those that might want to join of how to do well in their interview.
Amazing. I hope so too. It's been super great to be on the podcast.
Thanks for being here again. And thanks to those insiders listening. You can add the podcast to your favorites so you don't miss an episode, and follow us on Instagram at Revolut Insider. Thanks for tuning in to the Revolut Insider podcast, where we explore Revolut's rocket ship from the inside out. Until next time, remember, the sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning. Revolut, change the way you money.